All right, everybody, welcome back to Historians of Movies podcast. Of course, I am your host. I am your emperor, your leader,
There was a
fallen
dream.
general.
There was a dream that was HTM.
This
is not it. This is not it.
The plebeian you hear behind me is, of course, our friend Craig Bruce Smith, and welcome back, Craig. We have important work to do today. There's no intro. There's no music today. We are responding to the trailer for Gladiator II. Are you excited?
I actually am very excited. It's been a long time coming. Maybe we should have got Hans Zimmer and Lisa Gerrard to do the intro music. That would have been appropriate. We certainly couldn't use modern music because that's upsetting people right now.
Okay, yeah, we're getting into that in a bit because that's really kind of what spawned this. I was thinking about doing a response to this anyway. We're going to be doing more of these as time goes on now that we've got the YouTube and all that. But actually, no Hans Zimmer in Gladiator II. Did you see this? Yeah, he is not doing the music. Harry Gregson Williams is the accredited the music guy on this. Zimmer is not coming around for round two.
Well, I think that is a mistake, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, well, as we've seen so far, Ridley Scott really cares about the opinions of historians. So there's that.
And this is a controversial thing. I admit I still haven't seen Napoleon because every single person I know that saw it said it was awful. Don't watch it.
Dog shit film.
So I didn't see it. I'm sure there's one day that it will, but to defend Ridley Scott a little bit, he's not making movies for historians.
No, he's not, right? And we're going to get this. Okay, so we should probably let's backtrack a little bit because really what set this off was two different things. One was a text, and then one was to respond to a text, and then a third was maybe a text, or one was a tweet, and then my response to said tweet, and then your text in response to me calling me essentially a douchebag.
Whoa. I just mocked you for saying historian here.
I know. You know what? And I hate it when people do that, actually, because I'm like, no one cares. I did. Right? You know what I was doing? I was like, you know what? Maybe I am a film historian now. With HATM, I think I am.
You put whatever you want in front of it. Fine. You still said historian here.
I just hate this story. I hate that. You got it. You're right. I am. That's fine. All right. This morning, a guy by the name of Ryan McCaffrey at DMC_Ryan, who missed the wonderful opportunity just to go Ryan DMC, but whatever, tweeted along with the trailer to Gladiator II a tweet saying, how did Ridley Scott, A, sign off on the wildly anachronistic song choice for this Gladiator II trailer, and B, allow Academy Award-winning actor Denzel Washington to do a New York accent in a movie set in ancient Rome?
Okay.
To which I responded, historian here, no one cares.
Again, I'm with you on the second part of that. The first part where my issue is because you have a lot of historians who do care. You obviously have, I think he works for IGN.
I think so. Yeah.
Which is I remember it used to do like video game reviews. I assume they branched out.
This is not a slide on Ryan. I'm sure he's a great guy. I saw some of his other tweets. He seems like a good dude. However, and a lot of this is going to be response. You know, you think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the first Gladiator here, but a lot of this is a response actually to Napoleon itself, Scott's most recent film and things like that. But I got a couple thoughts on this, which I want to get your thoughts. Like, first of all, I don't care. This is not a documentary. Films are not, and we've talked about this throughout the many pods you've been on, throughout the HATM podcast. Films inherently are not documentaries. As long as the general sense of history is right, I generally don't have a beef with taking some stylistic choices.
Yeah, right? I don't have a problem with it either. Again, as long as you are sticking to a rough, basic narrative. That you can't, World War II can't become before World War I. And, that
the Civil War has to be about slavery. I mean, there's some basics here.
Core elements.
Yeah.
Unless, again, make an Abe Lincoln, vampire hunter or whatever it was. You know what? It's about vampires.
Awesome.
Sure, why not? But they still think they actually made up slavery and vampires.
Right.
But I'm fine with something like that. Again, would I call a history movie? No. But if I care about, does it give you a sense of the time?
Right.
if it helps you to understand the era better or it gets people interested in the era, I think it's a success. I am less concerned about the manner in which an emperor dies. I am less concerned about the order, the that, well, you skipped over these two emperors to get to Denzel Washington's character. I'm like, oh, that's less important to me if you're making a movie, a Hollywood style movie for the general public for entertainment. I'm less bothered by that. If you are then slapping on based on a true story,
Sure,
then
that's
I think
different.
it changes it a little bit.
And you're taking yourself super seriously. These films are not necessarily about. They're using history to tell stories about the human condition,
Right.
right? These stories, the first Gladiator and this apparently the second one, are very much stories about vengeance and honor, and what the lengths to which a man will go to to gain justice, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's what these things are doing.
they're fictional stories. They're morality tales. They
Yeah,
have some loose sort of tie-in with the past, but they're not meant to be history, right? If you
right.
shouldn't be like, all right, let's not teach Rome in World 101. Well, we're just going to put on Gladiator and then Gladiator 2 and we're good.
No, but what you can do is like, if you want to use these things to teach, again, it's like, okay, look, you can curate these if you were, say, a social
Yeah,
studies teacher or a professor or a historian or whatever, right? Say, okay, look, people went. This is what the Colosseum we think looked like.
yeah.
These are the similarities. Oh, look, people were going to these just like they're going to any number of professional matches today.
I
Like
still think
people do this.
what they did with the Colosseum in Gladiator 1 and what it appears to be doing with the Colosseum in Gladiator 2 is making it this grand spectacle. I
Sure,
think
which
they
it
get
was.
that very right. I think they get the spectacle of the gladiatorial games right. Um, the people like, oh, why are they having naval battles in the Colosseum? They literally had
Because they
naval
did.
battles in the
That's
Colosseum.
cool. I want to see it on screen. That's what they can bring. Because the question I have is like, okay, haven't we seen this movie before?
Right.
Right.
So
And then we see them flooding the Coliseum, and now we're getting naval battles. I'm like,
yeah,
sign me up.
I
I'm,
want
I'm,
to see
I'm
that.
done.
As long as Captain
Absolutely.
Jackus Aubrius is on the helm.
All right, let's talk about this. Okay, second thing, I want to respond back to this tweet as well. The idea that Denzel is talking with a New York accent. First of all, does Denzel have to have an Italian accent or a whatever?
All
Like,
right,
go ahead.
so I am from New York.
You are.
Your listeners can debate whether or not I have a New York accent. I have been accused of having many types of accents by people in New York, but never a New York accent, which is strange because I am from New York City. Not
Right.
like I'm not from like Albany and say, oh, I'm from New York. Um,
Right. You're from the
but
city.
yeah, so first of all, I don't think he has a New York accent. I think he has his Denzel Washington prestige film accent on more so than any New York accent, which lots of actors do it. Russell Crowe has his prestige movie accent, which is different than his
Mm-hmm.
regular accent. So his regular one is, pretty is more Australian. And his prestige one is, I'm Maximus, command of the like
Right.
it's there. He's putting on. So again, is it? I think didn't Denzel play Caesar in Shakespeare? Shakespeare.
He's played a lot of
Yeah,
stuff,
he's using
right?
the same sort of voice there. I don't get a New York accent. Do I like his handshake where instead of my man, he's like my Roman? Yeah, I thought
Oh
like
yeah. Like stop. Okay. This is
yeah,
Alonzo Harris. And sign me up. I guess the thing
yeah,
I'm getting into is like, first of all, if you want to go down this road, like, why aren't they speaking Italian? And more to the point, why aren't they speaking turn of the whatever century Italian,
yeah. But
right,
wasn't
or
Latin?
whatever dialects?
Yeah.
Yeah, where exactly? That's my point, right? Why aren't they speaking
And then,
Latin?
and
Do
then
we
well,
even know what that would sound like?
well,
Yeah, exactly.
well, then when Mel Gibson does it, people complain about it. So
Well, we're not going into Mel today. We're
I
not.
know. I'm just
That's a
saying.
whole okay.
Yeah,
Finally, let Denzel be Denzel.
yeah.
Okay, you have arguably the coolest actor in the history of acting. Look at like I'd seen a tweet the other day. Like, good luck. Like, if you thought you were going to be the cool guy in this
Yeah.
movie,
He
it's
looks
not
he
happening. It's
looks
it's
good.
Denzel.
He's a great actor. Again, he's certainly a top one. We all know who some of
Everyone
the
loves Denzel.
yeah. we could argue about who's number one, but he's in the discussion.
Absolutely is.
I don't see the issue. Also, a lot of directors go to, and I've heard them talk about this. Sofia Coppola talked about this. They look to other films, earlier films, to try to decide what to do on this accent thing.
Okay.
And Sofia Coppola, when she made Marie Antoinette, specifically referenced Amadeus and saying, I can let the actors keep their original accents rather than having them try to put on, a fake.
It gets distracting.
Or Italian or whatever. So again, initially for the first Gladiator, Russell Crowe, because he's Maximus, is known as the Spaniard. He wanted to basically mimic Antonio Banderas in the movie. And Ridley Scott said, absolutely not. So I think
go be angry Aussie. Yeah.
So I think it would be more jarring and more distracting if Denzel put on a North African accent.
The fuck does that even sound like?
I think that would be strange.
And again, the issue I've got here is like the idea of accents to begin with. We're trying to go for historical accuracy that we'd have it in the original language.
Yeah.
Right? So what are we doing here?
And he's fine. The character would have been from Caesarea in Mauritania. I don't know what the Caesarean accent was.
I have no clue.
If someone does know it, good for them.
Yeah, again, this is not a documentary.
Yeah.
All we're trying to do is tell a story using history. Yeah.
I don't see an issue with that. I think it would be more jarring. Speaking of jarring, Pedro Pascal's mustache, I can't not look at it. That's more jarring to me than the historical inaccuracies. Yeah.
Do you want to jump into the cast here from what we've seen so far? Like your thoughts on...
All right. So
Marcus Acacius.
Connie Nielsen back again. She's essential.
Thank God in heaven. She's not essential. She's timelessly gorgeous.
Well, she has to be in the movie.
Oh my God, I love Connie Nielsen. Where has she been?
She's sort of I'm just ignorant. For like nothing big for like 20 years, and I don't know how.
She is phenomenal. She's phenomenal in the first film.
Yeah,
she's great in everything she's in. Where's she? Like I don't know. I remember I saw her in like the Metallica documentary, Some Kind of Monster, because she was dating Lars Ulrich at the time.
I guess the Danish connection. Anyway.
Oh yeah, there you go. But she's amazing.
But all right, so
I'm glad to see her.
Here's the thing. I kind of like it that it's largely, again, I know people will argue with me and say, oh, they're not unknowns. I will be completely honest. I don't know the lead. And someone will be like,
I feel like I should know the lead. People are like, oh, I was like Paul Mescal.
Sorry.
I'm like, I know I'm supposed to know him, but I don't know him.
I know Pedro Pascal, and I know him like from Game of Thrones.
No, but the lead, Paul Mescal, I don't know him.
The other guy, yeah, no clue. And one of the emperors like, oh, he's in Stranger Things. I've never seen the show. I have
great, neither.
So,
great.
But I want to go back to the first Gladiator.
Okay.
Outside of, let's say, Richard Harris and Oliver Reed, who would have been known to a certain generation, but not, your teenage 20-something crowd. Most of those actors were quote unquote unknown, or I should say lesser known. So Crowe had just been
was the only guy.
Confidential. So Crowe wasn't unknown to me. I remember the first thing I remember him from was Virtuosity, also with Denzel. That's the first thing I remembered seeing him in, but I hadn't seen him in anything aside from that. Maybe like snippets of The Quick and the Dead or something. Before he did Gladiator. So he wasn't a household name. He wasn't even really a star at that
There was a sense, I think, Craig, because I remember the commercials for Gladiator. I remember watching them. There was a sense that Crowe had heat. You know what I mean? Like there was and maybe a bit of this with Mescal, not quite as much, but there's a sense that Crowe was about to emerge, and he did.
Yeah.
As a capital M, capital S movie star.
Yeah, and the original the original commercials were "A hero will rise," so that meant
Right.
not just Maximus but Crow. Um,
Yeah.
but going back to the music thing, since we're talking about the original trailers, everyone's complaining, "Oh, there's modern music." It's a Jay Z and a Kanye West song. The
It's a trailer.
original Gladiator commercial, which was Kid Rock's
Kid
"Bah
Rock.
Wah,"
By
which,
the way, that kicked ass.
if you say
I
so,
love. Oh my
I'm
god, are you kidding
sure
me?
just the demographic though.
Let me tell you something. First of all, that commercial kicked ass. That was the perfect song for that, and that's the reason why "Ba Wit to Ba" is actually on my gym playlist right now. So to this day, like yeah, that it worked.
My
And
name
again, we've
is
seen
Maximo.
uh, we don't have any sense in that. First of all, trailers and commercials can be completely
Yeah,
opposite. They're actually, if you've ever actually seen a film that we both love, the trailer to the film Heat is awful. Absolutely does not capture the
yeah,
film whatsoever. Um, so oftentimes, like trailers can give away the goat and tell us everything that's in the movie,
yeah.
or be wildly off. And trailers are just supposed to sell a film, so there's no sense that they're going to have Jay
I
Z
think
out there rapping uh, before the sea battle begins or
now
before the Rhino comes
to
in.
interject here, if
Yes.
they did have modern music in it, I would have a problem with it.
Okay, we're going down the A Knight's Tale thing, which we
Yeah,
don't need to relitigate right now, but there's no sense that that's going to happen.
yeah, I don't think so.
Um, absolutely no, and I absolutely agree with you. It's one of the reasons that Star Wars did so well early on was that these casts, the cast was largely unknown. I'm talking about the original
Yeah,
Holy Trilogy. Harrison Ford had been in American Graffiti as like a side character. Nobody knew who these people were, so it's a lot easier to buy into the person as the character to slip into the film when you're not watching. As much as I love Clooney, I know I'm watching Clooney when I'm watching a film,
well,
right?
Clooney wants you to
So
know you're watching Clooney.
exactly. So aside from Denzel, Connie Nielsen, I think largely most people will just recognize her from the first film.
I
She's
would agree.
amazing. I'm seeing Derek Jacobi is coming back as Senator Gracchus,
Who I
so
who I love.
he's great.
Again, his best work was with Ian McKellen in Vicious, but he absolutely should
Right.
be.
All right. So can we talk a little bit about what we're expecting this film to be? I think the real challenge here with making Gladiator 2 is how do you make another movie
Yeah,
in a It's like you can only do so many Jurassic Parks, right? Because dinosaurs can only do so many different things.
you have to wait 20
Um,
years and reboot them.
I can't wait to see Scarlett Johansson back in the gladiatorial arena in just a few years. So it looks to me from the trailer, everything I'm reading is that we've got Paul Mescal as young Lucius,
Yep.
runs away from what is what the trailer says, like runs away shortly thereafter the events of First Gladiator, and just resettles. And I'm pulling this both off of the trailer and also what I found on Wikipedia here.
Yeah,
So
it seems like he becomes a wayward youth, disaffected by his lap of luxury and the death of Maximus.
right, and
Yeah,
then resettles, remarries, and then is also forced into slavery and finds himself caught, and now he's in the arena as well.
yeah.
Um, doesn't look like Lucilla recognizes him, at least not initially. So here's
Right.
another thing where Lucilla is having to just like, oh wait, you're alive, just like she did with Maximus in the in the first film, I think. And now we see also Pedro Pascal as this guy Marcus Acacius, right?
Mhm.
Do you get the sense that Pascal is his character? I don't get the sense that he's quote unquote evil in this movie.
No, he
He
seems
looks
to
the part
be.
of like
He will have sacked wherever Lucius was living. Somewhere.
right.
I'm sure he sacked the city, and now his family gets killed, and now he wants revenge. But he is very much depicted as a reluctant sort of
Tired.
conqueror. I'm willing to bet there's going to be some sort of romantic relationship with him and Connie Nielsen, so that Lucius can go, "You're not my father."
According to everything I'm reading, is that Acacius was actually served underneath under Crow's character in the first film. Is the tie-in here? So I worry it's getting a little too cute with the
He, but
relationships.
that's the thing. Maximus looms large.
Yes,
Maximus is dead. You can't bring him back. You can't Maverick this and just have Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. You have to work him in, you have to give the nod. What I do think is, I wouldn't be surprised if we see, like, hear some voiceover when, he's putting his hands in the dirt in either
Well, we
wheat,
see that, right?
and then,
Clearly a callback.
you're going to hear a voiceover. There was a dream that was wrong. Something like that. Or he ends up in Elysium, and then there's like Maximus standing looking at him and through the wheat. I'm sure there's gonna be something like that, but you have to nod to it. But you're not. I think the danger would be if you're trying to make Lucius the same as Maximus.
Yeah, he's not. He can't be. Like, he seems in some ways angrier. At least that's the way they're painting him in the trailer, than Maximus, which, if that's even possible, right? Because Denzel's like, your rage, I'm going to use your rage. And Denzel's like, puppet master, I'm going to bring the whole thing down. That seems interesting to me. Denzel obviously has some issues. Denzel's clearly not playing an altruistic dude himself. He's got some beef. We'll see what happens with this.
We know what Denzel's character ends up becoming historically, but what way do they go in the movie? We'll see.
Do we know what happens? Is his character based on a real dude?
Yeah.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, who ultimately becomes Emperor of Rome.
Macrinus?
Yeah. He's got a brief
know.
reign. I think he reigns for like a year.
I'll take it. And then he's shot down in Compton after his after his gambling debts get caught up to him. As he's on the run on the run from the Russians. I want to ask you about this. I want to ask you about Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
He's a director that both you and I love.
Yep.
You and I both long-time love films. He has played a huge role in our development as far as appreciation of films. We both have so many of his films that are our absolute favorites. However, he's been hit and miss recently. He's been a bit uneven. So I kind of wonder, are we tempering our expectations for this film based upon his recent record?
Yeah, so I love Ridley Scott. I love him like few other directors, right?
He's one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, he's top 3 easily for me.
Yeah, but 1. I still got to critique his work.
Right. So
because I respect him so much.
You have to think that if he's pulling this out, he's putting a lot into it. Because the first movie was near perfect. Yeah. I mean, you could quibble with little things. That movie was near.
There are historians who have beef with the first film, but it's a great film. Just stop it with the revision. It's a magnificent film.
Yeah, it hits the central themes. You get a sense of the character. No, Commodus is not killed in the arena by a Roman general. No, he doesn't. Right. Smother his father with a. I get it.
It's fine. You're telling a story.
Yeah.
You're telling a story. You're using history to tell a story.
I have to think this is Ridley Scott's. I mean, he's in his mid-80s now, right?
Yeah, and he's the good news is he's back with Denzel, who he's been with before.
I think he's viewing this as his legacy movie. Does he want?
He's got other stuff lined up.
Is he going? I'm sure he has other things, but I don't think he wants to mess with the Gladiator legacy.
All right. Well, I don't want to go all the way back to Gladiator. That's 24 years of films, but let's go back to the last few years back. Okay. Napoleon was one of the worst films I've seen in a long time.
The trailer was great.
House of Gucci, I didn't watch. I wasn't interested in it.
Yeah, I watched it. I can appreciate it was a good movie. I like fashion, so I was okay with it. But again, it wasn't an epic, right?
Right. The Last Duel, I actually liked, but it was a hard sell. It was a weird time to be coming out. We actually did that on the pod. I actually liked the film, but didn't do well. All the Money in the World didn't do well. The Alien film, Alien and Prometheus, both kind of The Counselor, Exodus, Gods and Kings, also terrible. The only real winner in here is 2015's The Martian.
I agree. It's
tough.
Concerning.
It's tough. So I guess I'm hoping there's a return to form and a return to like what Scott knows, because he's clearly still has the ability. Look, there were moments in the Napoleon film that were great to watch, but as a whole, it was a terrible movie.
Well, what I will say
And he's got the same screenwriter.
What I will say is his movies always look good.
Absolutely.
Visually. Right? So we could I don't know what's going to happen. Again, you never know what happens with how much is the studio, how much is the director. Ultimately, it's going to rest with him because his name's on it. But again, I will agree he hasn't had the best track record lately, especially on historical films. So
the man, as much as he says he doesn't make his movies for historians, he clearly has a love of history and bases a lot of his work in historical narratives, right? And I'm rooting for Scott here.
This is the pop historian versus the academic historian debate all the time. I'm sure he is reading on history, but I don't think he's reading university press books on history.
That's fine. I'd rather talk to the masses anyway. So, all right, Craig, are you excited about this film?
Yeah, I am. I am excited. I'm absolutely going to see it. I saw the first Gladiator first day it came out. I'm going to see this. I will attempt to see it on the first day it came out. I don't know when that falls on Thanksgiving week. So yeah, I am excited about it. Am I also nervous about it? Yes. Yeah. Especially that I'm aware of the Gladiator II sequel that was floating around for years, which was sort of
time travel.
Yeah, time travel, resurrected Maximus fighting through the ages, which I was nervous about. Again, I think Wolverine, the intro to Wolverine, did that really well.
Only good part of that film.
Yeah, that's an amazing part. Again, if Scott was going to make that, I think that's a little concerning. As interesting as it could have been, right. Maximus wasn't a Highlander. He was not immortal.
That's the movie we want. It
could
be that one.
But as people have said online or elsewhere in all these reviews of the trailer, it does seem like it's following a formula. I don't think that's bad. Sequels have to nod to the original. They have to give the people what they want from the first one while doing something new. The question is he doing enough new? Are they going too much back?
They wanted to do the rhino scene in the first one, so we're finally getting it.
Hey, why not? It looked cool.
No, listen, I'm going to go see this film, right? Yeah. I'm excited about it. I love history. I love movies. I love movies about history. I hope it's good. I hope we come back and do this in November. This was a cool film. I'm glad they did it.
Yeah.
Or we'll do the podcast questioning where Ridley Scott goes from here.
I'm rooting for it. I want it to do well. So whether it's a movie critic or a historian who's picking it apart, frame by frame, whether there's stirrups or historically inaccurate mustaches or whatever, I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Is this movie for a generation? If it's good, if it's not a good movie, it won't do anything. But if it's a good movie, or especially if it's a great movie, it will have a massive impact for at least a generation. So I'm going to go back to, when Gladiator came out, it was right before I started college. I remember in college, being in history courses, and I had a guy that sat next to me, and he said his life goal was to become a history teacher. And I said, well, why? He goes, I want to show Gladiator in class. And that's what hooked him on wanting to go into history.
That's enough.
And I think if it can do that, it's absolutely worth it, even if, they skip over two emperors in between, the Ed Sheeran lookalike they've got on the throne here.
Awesome. Craig, I can't wait to do this. Thank you for sitting in and doing this emergency pod. If you guys like this, or you're interested in doing more of these or hear more about these thoughts, respond back here. Thanks for being here, Craig.
All right. Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.